Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your day and a great week out there so far. We're a little bit closer to that weekend, so that's always great. Here to bring the latest on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Thursday. We'll speak on that in great detail. A pretty large area of the country runs the risk of thunderstorms. A pretty large area of the country is experiencing thunderstorms this morning, some severe. We even have some flash flood warnings ongoing right now in areas of like eastern Texas where we were kind of expecting a lot of storms this morning. And that's exactly what we are getting. So we're going to speak on this, of course, speak on what's going to happen later on today in Texas, where we could have multiple supercells that develop in like northern Texas, right where kind of North Texas starts to ooze into the panhandle of Texas. So we'll really zoom into that area. I do think that'll be the region where we'll run the highest risk of significant severe weather for today. But like I mentioned, there's going to be an area from the south central U.S. all the way up into the Midwest. It's going to run at least the risk of some strong to severe storms for today. So we'll speak on all that. We'll talk about areas out west. After we move past today's forecast, we're going to go on and start speaking in a little bit more detail compared to yesterday morning's video on what's to come. We're already eyeballing another system that's most likely going to bring what I think is going to be an all-week stretch of severe weather risk next week. I'm talking about Monday at least through Wednesday or Thursday. Now, the Storm Prediction Center has only Monday really highlighted, but they mentioned the other days too, and how they could issue maybe some 15% risk days out ahead past next Monday. So we're going to speak on what's driving it, all the ingredients on the table out there. Of course, we're not even close enough to really looking at some of these short-range model guidance and the evolution, the timing, and the structure of these storms. But we are starting to see the pattern really set up for an active stretch of weather and what has been an extremely active end to April and already starts to May. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you've ever considered joining the channel, now would be an awesome time to do it. It's when the channel begins to slow down and, some of the people that are joined to the channel begin to, drop their, I guess you would say, subscription to the channel. But I have 35, 40 incredible members that, pretty much support my channel unconditionally. I don't have any crazy perks or cool things to offer. But just to show you my appreciation, one of these days, I promise you guys, that will be put on this channel. But I just want to thank the people who are joining my channel. And, if you ever considered finding a way to support my channel, it's a great way to do it, especially during the slower time. So I certainly appreciate that, and anybody that's even considering to do that. But moving past that, if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. Let's get rocking and rolling. So a lot of rain across the Midwest. I mean, Iowa, you are certainly in no drought. You have gotten wave after wave of showers, storms, some severe. You're getting that again this morning. A lot of rain moving over the state. A lot of rain in southern Minnesota. Rain is starting to move into Wisconsin. We got some cooler rain up here in the Dakotas. We got just a spin up here of a lower pressure, bringing down some cold air, cold enough for some higher elevation snow up here in Montana. There's a system moving, really it's just targeting the state of Oregon, but you guys are getting some rain depending on where you are. Some rain up here in the northeast from some system, with a system kind of rounding the upper portion of the ridge up here. You're experiencing some moderate to heavy rain depending on where you live in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And then I would say the most active weather is down here into eastern Texas, getting into Louisiana now, where we do have severe warm storms as of right at this moment. Flash flooding ongoing. Please let me know if you live in this area, what you're seeing out there. But a lot of rain, a lot of storms, and you're probably going to get another round later on today. So this is what's going on right now. As far as watches, warnings, and advisories, your dense fog advisories are in the gray colors. So experiencing that, you're starting to get deeper into the year. So, I call my state here in I call my area here in central South Carolina the armpit of hell, because I really don't think there's a whole lot of places to beat the heat of central South Carolina, southern Georgia, and the sandhills of North Carolina when it comes to the dead of summer, when you mix in the humidity levels with the actual air temperature. Of course, Arizona is going to be hotter, but they're going to be much drier. I think Florida's up there too. It's getting closer. So anyways, flood watches up in these green areas in Texas and Louisiana, the parishes and counties of Texas and Louisiana, southern Oklahoma, and then northern sections right here of Texas also has flood watches. And we have some winter weather alerts up here, winter weather advisories for the Rockies, winter storm warnings also for the Rockies of Montana. Some winter weather advisories for the higher elevations, the Cascades of Oregon also, and a couple freeze warnings and red flag warnings scattered about across the Rockies. So that's what's going on right now as far as watches and warnings. As far as the excessive rainfall outlook, once again, we have another moderate risk, and this is really what's going on right now and what could happen again later on this evening, which I'll zoom into Texas and Louisiana when we get to that timestamp. By the way, utilize those timestamps if you're new to the channel. I have like 1 million of them pulled up to help you guys jump to what you want to watch. So moderate risk, little baby one down here in southeast Texas, and this means there's at least a 40% chance of rainfall exceeding flashlight guidance within 25 miles at any given point. And then in the yellow, which is pretty large, goes all the way up to southwestern Wisconsin, all the way to the Gulf Coast line of Louisiana and Texas, 15% risk of that. And then the green, there's just a 5% at least. So, Storm Prediction Center update. As of right now, I think this could tweak a little bit, and we'll see what happens. But right now, a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5, extends all the way up here just south of Green Bay, includes, Milwaukee, Chicago, Peoria, Des Moines, Kansas City, St. Louis, Springfield, Little Rock, Shreveport, Alexandria, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Dallas, Waco, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, almost all the way down to Corpus Christi. Large area runs at least a risk of strong to severe storms. But if you notice, this area has a slight, that's just new, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. I really do think we're going to have some powerful thunderstorms in this area, from Wichita down to Abilene, maybe sneaking into the Dallas area. I think we're going to get 3, 4, 5, maybe supercells that eventually can kind of congeal into one another and develop into a sweeping line of storms across the state of Texas, really the eastern half of Texas. But man, we could have some bad storms in this area today. The tornado threat, just a 5% risk, not a whole lot of flow aloft to support a significant tornado risk, but we do have that 5% risk. There's a 2% risk for a good chunk of this marginal area. All right, and then the wind threat, you got a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour in this yellow area. And then the hail threat, there's a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, with a 10% risk in this black outline region, which means there's a hatch risk, a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger in this area. So, all hazards kind of deal, just not a high-end all hazards kind of deal. So let's go on and break down the southeast, and we are going to zoom into Texas there. So the southeast for today, I think it'll just be very warm for early May standards, and the weather is not going to really be bad at all. We make our way into the morning hours. We start to get into the afternoon hours. We'll kind of look at this a little bit more closely here in a second. Bear with me. But the immediate southeast, some pop-up downpours. I saw a video out of Florida yesterday. Not sure where it was, but from those sea breeze thunderstorms, it actually, looked like there was a solid funnel. I'm not sure if it was a confirmed tornado, but it was wild. You don't see that a whole lot in Florida, but you saw it yesterday. But so just be aware of these pop-up showers and storms down here in the state of Florida. You're starting to get into that kind of summer-type pattern where you get those popcorn showers and storms off that sea breeze that moves in from the west or east. So you're probably going to see that, especially on the western half of the peninsula of Florida. You see these storms kind of trailing off into Mississippi. I think they will lose some steam pretty dramatically overnight as we start to get into Alabama. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning, even more of a moist air mass built into the southeast ahead of a lot of energy moving this way, where I think it's going to be not a washout weekend for the southeast, but I do think you're going to run the opportunity for showers and storms Saturday and Sunday across the Carolinas, Georgia, and surrounding states. But a closer look at these storms that are eventually going to head out of Texas into Louisiana, already are doing so right now. And here they come. This is, I think the timing of this is a little off from the HRRR model, but this is around 1 p.m. Storms starting to move into western, northern Louisiana, more so just rain up into Arkansas. But look at these storms. This is around 4 p.m. They're starting to really make their way towards like the boot area of Louisiana, knocking on the doorstep of Baton Rouge. Jackson. Look, this looks like an intense line of storms. So we got to watch to see if these have an opportunity, a few hour opportunity later on this afternoon, early this evening, in like southeastern Louisiana, southwestern Mississippi, for these to kind of grow in intensity a little bit. If they do, then please be aware, because this could be a pretty nasty line of storms making its way through southern areas of Mississippi, Does it stretch all the way down to New Orleans? Very possible. 7 p.m., 8 p.m., Hattiesburg. They make it all to you, Meridian also, but do they still kind of pack in that punch? I think they dramatically lose some steam pretty quick. We could have some storms overnight up here in the Boot Hill, Missouri, northeastern sections of Arkansas all the way into Memphis. I mean, this is getting to around midnight tonight. Could get some storms up here in this region, and already waking up tomorrow morning with more storms entering the picture from what's going to happen with these supercells in Texas. That energy will make it all the way to Louisiana by daybreak tomorrow. So the Northeast, we got them showers that you were dealing with. I don't think it's really convective in nature. No real rumbles of thunder, but you guys let me know if I'm wrong there. But some rain will continue just to kind of pivot as a little short wave kind of area of energy kind of moves to the upper portion of this ridge. And, we actually could get some storms later on today, like just after lunchtime in northern Vermont, kind of northeastern New Hampshire. Northeastern Vermont and northern sections of New Hampshire could get some storms, could produce some small hail, very, very possible. But some widespread rains just across the state of Maine, maybe doesn't make it all the way up to northern Maine. And by the time we're getting into this evening, could get some showers down to Boston. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning at pretty calm conditions. I would say 75, 80% of the Northeast don't have to deal with any kind of weather today. The south central U.S. will spend a little bit of time on this. We're dealing with those storms right now in eastern and northeastern Texas. These will continue to trail off into Louisiana, but we could get some nasty storms way down here in southeastern Texas later on today, as these will tap into some energy that tries to build around the Houston area, points west and east. And these will continue. And like I said, just be aware of these storms are going to blast through the state of Louisiana, more so central and southern Louisiana later today. And then, you look up here, we're going to get some storm development most likely. I mean, it's going to be, you're going to have an opportunity all through Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, Missouri. You see these storms up here in Missouri, storms here around Springfield around 1 to 2 p.m., some storms trying to form in western Oklahoma. These, could be intense. I don't think that you run as high of a severe weather risk compared to the last couple of days up here in this region, but you see storms just scattered about. And we are going to zoom in here to the Midwest and Missouri and Illinois here in a second. But what I want you to watch down here is watch how these storms pop up down here. Immediately even just a broad, far out look at this, that looks like a supercell right in the heart of Texas. But you got to watch all of these. There is going to be rocket fuel in the atmosphere, tons of available CAPE for these storms to really develop and tap into. And I don't think there's going to be a little bit of a cap in place, but not enough to prevent these storms from really getting the updrafts going and ultimately forming into supercells. And these could be some wild storms. You got some supercells up here near the Red River, some down here deeper in Texas, kind of south or around the Abilene area. Please be aware of these if you live out here. They might be slow movers, not a whole lot of flow aloft. Just be aware. Be aware of these storms for sure. If you're a storm chaser, this is your dream setup because it's kind of out here in the open. Not as highly of a populated region, but you never know when it's going to hit one of these small towns, right? So, as we start to trail off into, the morning hours tomorrow morning, once again, you're greeted to an area of storms in eastern Texas. And it's basically the leftover energy from what happens, with these supercells. And just a closer look at this, we won't spend, a ton of time on this just because we spent a lot of time on the last frame. But there's those supercells forming. Abilene right into here, Wichita Falls right up into here, San Angelo down here. Whoever gets hit by one of these storms, you can expect some very large hail. There's a threat of a tornado. I think we will get a couple tornadoes out of this. And, you're probably going to get maybe some damaging winds with this too, especially as these kind of grow up scale. So, this is around, guys, this is around like 10 p.m. too. Some big storms out here. And then these will all kind of congeal together. Dallas-Fort Worth area, you could get hit by some nasty storms after midnight tonight. And then, like I said, they all start to group up and you're greeted to some nasty storms once again in eastern Texas tomorrow morning. And, here's all this energy that's going to build and really allow for these storms to get going. And, here it is. This is this afternoon. Look at this energy down here. This is surface-based CAPE too, which I typically look at mixed layer CAPE. But, this is all the energy kind of at the surface that these storms can try to tap into. But 4,000 or 5,000 joules per kilogram surface-based CAPE. And, you're probably well over the 2,500 to 3,500 joules per kilogram mixed layer cake, which is probably the best thing to look at, but just didn't want to pull up on top like a large amount of tabs here. But there's a lot of fuel in the atmosphere out here, and these storms are going to pop up right in here, tap into that, and watch how it eats up. You see how these little splotchy areas, those storms form and then eat up that fuel in the atmosphere. Not literally, guys, but I like to call the Cape a storm fuel, just because it kind of is. So updraft Felicity swath. This is for what's happening this morning. These storms will have an opportunity to maybe produce a small risk of a tornado as they troll off. But watch in this area right in here as you start to see colors show up. There's that supercell up here. There's those supercells down here around the Abilene area. And listen, I mean, these will probably be rotating. It's just, are you going to get that tight rotation that's going to produce a tornado? And it's very possible I think likely you're going to get at least some tornado warnings out here with these storms. So if you live out here in Texas, you're tuning in, let me know what you see. And more importantly, stay safe, because these storms could be serious business. It's just not everybody's going to get hit by it. But rainfall between now and the next 36 hours, another few inches of rain's coming, even outside of what you're experiencing right now in eastern Texas and western Louisiana. So go on and be aware of that. I know you guys went through, what was it, last summer, the summer before, just an awful stretch of no rain. I mean, I think some areas didn't get, I feel like it was 2 summers ago. You guys in Texas, let me know. You guys went through a stretch where literally you didn't get rain almost the entire summer. So it's just wild how you get these ugly patterns that set up sometimes. But up here in the north central U.S., there's a lot of little areas to watch. Of course, you're dealing with the rain this morning in almost called Iowa, Louisiana. That's weird. But you know how I do, guys. But in Iowa, you're dealing with the rain. This will clear out, but then you'll get the regeneration of more storms that's going to form down here in southern, southeastern Iowa, northern Missouri. There's those storms. More widespread rain just kind of moving through northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, especially eastern North Dakota, northeastern South Dakota. Rain starting to move into the UP of Michigan, especially the western UP of Michigan. You guys will have a soggy afternoon, just kind of a dreary afternoon that's going to settle in for your Thursday afternoon, evening. But you see these storms trying to form down here, and you notice there's a clearing in most of Illinois, Indiana. Typically when you see this clearing, all right, the atmosphere is probably a little bit more unstable than if you move up here and you just dealt with all that rain. So as you can tell, a lot of storms form here in western, northern, even northern Illinois, even southern Wisconsin. You still got storms down here in Missouri. And we'll continue just to get scattered rains late this evening. And eventually some rain will move into the eastern UP of Michigan. We'll start to get widespread rains on lower Michigan overnight. All those storms begin to lose some punch. Maybe some isolated storms embedded in all this rain overnight across maybe Illinois, Indiana, and of course we could get some storms down here also into Kentucky tonight. I know it seems like I'm leaving you guys hanging out, but I would say after the sun sets, you're going to get some rain moving into western Kentucky later on in the period. But I really think that these storms will kind of lose some punch by the time they start to move into this area. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning with a little bit more calmer conditions. But certainly in this area is the area of concern as far as the Midwest, north central U.S. Some of this energy will kind of peter out, if you will, later on this morning, but then it'll get re-going, and here it is. We could get some nasty storms here, around Peoria, points west, points north, all the way up to Rockford, all the way up to Janesville. Some storms near Columbia, Missouri, St. Louis. This eventually could work into your region, and these could produce a tornado or two. There's that 2% risk of a tornado just due to the fact that you do have that weak surface low, to the north of this. So it's driving, a belt of somewhat favorable flow aloft for maybe a brief tornado or two. It's very possible. Could have a downpour or two that pops up, a little bit further east in Illinois, west in Indiana. And you keep this going, these storms will not be, I would say, bad for long. I think they lose some steam pretty quick and just turns into some heavy rain, embedded thunder, and lightning. But there's a closer look at my friends here in Kentucky. Just some rain overnight, especially in western Kentucky. But some storms could re-get going tomorrow afternoon down here in Tennessee and Kentucky. But I do want to show you this really quick, the updraft Felicity swath for these storms today. And there's that highlighted area. I want to watch, if you live here in western Illinois all the way up to near Rockford. I mean, maybe even in southern sections of of Wisconsin. This is going to be an area, I don't want to say of concern, but just be aware if you live in this region of Illinois. I mean, maybe even northeastern Missouri. I want to watch as energy is able to feed into the southern flank of this energy. These storms are going to have a little bit more juice to them compared to all the other convection in Missouri and Iowa, and et cetera. So just be aware. I mean, that's a pretty highlighted area right here if you live in northern and western Illinois. So rainfall, you're going to get even more rain, even outside what you're seeing this morning in Iowa, northern Missouri. You guys will have another area of embedded rain and thunderstorms. It's going to dump another couple inches of rain from northern Missouri all the way up into eastern sections of Iowa. Could get 3/4 of an inch to an inch of rain if you live in like southwestern sections of Wisconsin, and just scattered rains about, from now over the next 24 hours. UP and Michigan, just about everybody will get some rain by the time you get into Friday morning. Some rain will move into lower Michigan. So energy out west. Hope you guys are well. See, it feels like I haven't spoke a lot on y'all lately, so I do apologize. Just it's been relatively calm, I would say, out west. But you got two areas of energy. One impulse of energy you're dealing with in Oregon that's bringing some showers in lower elevations, snow in higher elevations, depending on your elevation. And then we got the snow we're dealing with in northern Montana. And of course, as we start to get into the afternoon hours, this will become a little bit more sporadic in nature, if you will, instead of like just more widespread. But some of this energy from Oregon will eventually move into the southern half of Idaho. We'll start to get some showers maybe in northern Nevada, and we'll just continue to just get rounds of rain showers or either snow showers, depending on your elevation in Montana, Idaho, and eventually some of this energy will make its way into Wyoming, maybe in the higher elevations of northern Utah. Some snow, and then by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, we got some snow maybe dancing around here and southern half of Wyoming. I saw a really neat video of Laramie, Wyoming yesterday, and it was just puking snow. Like first day of May, just cotton ball size snowflakes. Very impressive, very cool. Even in May, you know me, guys. I'm a snow fan at heart, but snowfall between now and the next 2 days confined to the higher elevations, and we would expect this for May 2nd. So just a few inches here, maybe half a foot there in the higher elevations of Montana. So temperatures today, where it's not raining, I mean, it'll be nice all the way up into, we're going to get into some 60s and 70s. Our friend Robin up here in the Northeast that lives in the interior sections of the Northeast, I'm kind of brain farting whether it's New Hampshire or Vermont. I do apologize, Robin. You've been such an awesome supporter over the years, and I should know better. So, But she says that the leaves are just now starting to leaf out, which I'm assuming is a pretty normal thing in the higher elevations of the interior Northeast. But I know I got somebody who listens in from Maine also. It's probably similar story. Maine's going to be trapped in with cooler temperatures up here, 40s and 50s, just due to that rain. But once you start to dip down into PA, New Jersey, the Mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley, boy, upper 80s, low 90s, I think is going to happen here all the way down to the Carolinas. Very warm. You see this weird area of cooler air? This is because the outflow and just cloud cover from the line of storms that you're dealing with down here in eastern Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas this morning. So a little bit more of a cooler air mass up here in the upper Midwest. And, the western U.S., you're still just dealing with lower pressure. So, you still just get cloud cover, rain, showers. This keeps temperatures down. But the Southwest continues just to be easy like Sunday morning. Just calm weather, not a whole lot going on. It really has been pretty quiet for a while now. And, if you like it like that, you like it like that. But, L.A., Las Vegas, San Diego, not too warm, not too hot, pretty comfortable out here. Not too cold, not too hot is what I meant to say. But you see these temperatures really warming down here in Texas. This lets you know that the atmosphere is really going to be juiced up in Texas later on this afternoon. Some areas are going to get to 100 degrees, I'm betting, in western and southwestern Texas later on today. So let's go on and move forward. So Friday, we have a severe weather risk too. And we could get an upgrade to a slight risk with this. It's possible as energy just continues to kind of impulse around lower pressure to the north. So, you're going to get another risk of strong to severe storms across the plains. but nothing too significant. Okay, you're probably going to run a small tornado risk and then just a small risk of hail and damaging winds. But, this could upgrade to a slight risk very well. But all in all, I don't expect this to be a big severe weather day. And then we get into Saturday. What I want you to notice is there's a risk of thunderstorms all the way up from the U.S.-Canadian line, all the way to the Mexico-U.S. line, all the way to the Gulf Coast, all the way to Columbia and Charlotte, South Carolina, North Carolina. So, a large area is going to run there at least a risk for thunderstorms. I just think that, your risk for stronger to severe storms is going to be confined to this marginal risk down here in western Texas, even, New Mexico. I'm sorry, western Texas. I caught myself there. Western Texas, eastern New Mexico. So, we'll watch that, see if that upgrades. And then, we'll skip a day. We'll skip Sunday. There's probably going to be a large area of the country that sees thunderstorms, and somebody could eventually get, a marginal risk. But I don't think Sunday is going to be a big day as far as strong to severe storms. That changes once we get into Monday. Monday, another system continues to track its way across the west. We have a 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in a given location. This stretches from, Omaha, Lincoln, Kansas City, Wichita, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, all the way down to Wichita Falls. It seems like it's a rinse and repeat pattern. We've mentioned all these areas, and by now I should stop butchering names. I think somebody corrected me on Salinas. I think they said a Salina. I think that's what y'all said. I just keep jacking up the names, but you guys are so kind about it, and I really appreciate that. But just keep correcting me. That's all I can ask, and eventually I'll memorize everybody in the U.S. But 15% risk of severe weather. Once you get past this day, you start to get into Tuesday. All right, you start to get into Wednesday and Thursday. All day 6 through day 8 says predictability too low. But if you go down here, first off, it does mention, as far as day 5, Monday, we'll maintain a broad 15% risk area with upgrades and later outlooks as predictability increases. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a day 4 or day 3 enhanced risk coming up for Monday. But it does say, for Tuesday, day 6 through Thursday, day 8, significant severe weather potential is likely, primarily from parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, and eventually Louisiana, Mississippi, as strengthening zonal flow will be possible across the region. So, you remember what I told you in the beginning of the video, if you were tuning in, that I thought severe weather was going to last past Monday? I really think it is. And this is why. And we're going to, nerd out with you guys for a minute. Higher pressure is showing up in the warmer colors, the oranges and the reds. Lower pressure is showing up in the blues. Typically calmer, stable conditions is associated with, the reds and the oranges you see on your map. Now, 500 millibar map does not always tell us what's going on at the surface. 500 millibar is pretty high up in the atmosphere, 18,000 feet or so. Okay, but it does show us the general pattern. So lower pressure typically associated with stormy conditions, unstable conditions, some kind of active weather pattern, energy, and then associated cold front that could potentially cool you down afterwards. Potentially. So here it comes. We're OOZ Sunday, which stands for about Sunday. Stands for Saturday evening. So this is technically Saturday evening, May the 4th, right? So we'll keep this moving. I want you to watch as this area in blue continues to kind of chug across the western U.S. very slowly. We're getting into Sunday morning at this point, May the 5th. And then we are getting into Sunday afternoon. This is digging down. All right. And then we're getting into Monday morning. What I want you to notice, and you probably didn't catch it, is this area of lower pressure tilted. And eventually it tilts even more to the point where on Monday afternoon, and we're looking at the Euro, by the way. GFS is a tick different. We expect this far out in the medium range. And all of a sudden, this blue area is right over the northern plains. The Central Rockies oozing into the plains in general. You got the red area right here. Now, this ridge is really preventing this from kind of meandering further east, just like last week's event. So what we typically see with this is a lot of weather kind of between the orange you see on your map and the blue you see on your map. So let's back this up a little bit. And I showed this in yesterday morning's video. What I want you to watch, and this is all the way back to, overnight Saturday into Sunday. What I want you to watch is this darker blue and how it goes from like this and tilts to like that. Watch how this kind of focus on the darker blue shaded color. Okay, and I'm going to get this in motion again. Watch how it kind of does a tilt. It kind of goes vertical there, and then it tilts to the side like this. And at this point, as we're getting into Monday morning, based off the euro, we already have what we call a negatively tilted trough, which is what this blue area is. It's a trough of low pressure. You can call it multiple things, an upper low, just a storm system. So it's tilting like this. We have a positive tilted trough, neutral tilted, and then a negatively tilted trough. Typically, a neutral tilted trough is when, it's in the stages of becoming negatively tilted. We can have severe weather in all tilts, but when they become negatively tilted like this is when we got to watch out. This is when we can have a powerful storm system, and it's in the process of ejecting across wherever part of the country or the world it is. And we have an associated surface low once we have a strengthening and a negatively tilted trough. And when you have a low that forms, it really enhances all the dynamics, the ingredients for severe weather, because you have a strengthening storm system. And that's the case with this. So this also helps pull a southwesterly southerly flow, as flow around this low pressure basically does this number right here. And then it comes up like that and like that. So as this digs down, you see where I'm pointing this arrow? You got flow aloft and at the surface. It digs down and it yanks up low-level moisture, or in this case, reinforces it, because there's already a lot of moisture in place. Your higher humidity, your surface dew points, your higher dew points in the 60s and 70s. And it reinforces an air mass that's thermodynamic-wise, as far as moisture, supports severe weather. So this also brings what we call a mid-level jet with it. So flow that supports severe weather and the lift for thunderstorms. So you keep this going, and we get into Tuesday, for example. This thing becomes fully amplified and kind of begins to just string itself out over the entire, central and western U.S., you might as well say. So same deal for Tuesday. You're probably going to have a lot of energy. You're never going to have severe weather like in this area, right? You're going to have severe weather down here, right, where you continue to get this flow getting pulled up, this mid-level jet coming at the base of this trough. Up here, a cold front has kind of already moved through, associated with this upper trough. This has stabilized the atmosphere up here. So where you have maybe severe weather right into here, you could still have severe weather in here because we don't know the exact position of this trough. Cold front might already move through that area, stabilize the atmosphere. Okay? So you keep this moving, and remember how I told you how the Storm Prediction Center mentions a zonal flow? Well, the reason you get a zonal flow, and this is for like Wednesday afternoon, right? The trough becomes zonal. So it's kind of, the flow is going like this, and you got a ripe air mass already built into this area with plenty of flow aloft, kind of going right over this area, a very warm, moist, unstable atmosphere. And that's why you're going to continue to have a risk of strong to severe storms. It might lessen up as you get into Wednesday and Thursday, but yeah. And after that, it's anybody's game at that point. It's hard to figure it out. What we do know, if we look at those ingredients that I just told you when showing you the blues and the oranges, you look at Saturday evening, for example. What I want you to note, I want you to see here, is you already have a very moist air mass in place all the way up into the Great Lakes region. These are dew points, not temperatures, dew points. Dew points in the 60s and the 70s is what we call a thermodynamic. It's moisture certainly supportive enough once you get into the 60s and higher. Even upper 50s will work in some cases, especially the higher elevated regions of the high plains and things like that. We'll get into that another time. But you already got a huge, broad, moist sector in place. Tons of moisture. You don't need this to recover. It's already there. So we start to move into Sunday. Moving into Sunday afternoon. Just watch how kind of the moisture dances around your screen. And then we start to move into Monday morning. What I want you to notice, remember how I was telling you that upper trough will yank in more moisture from the south and southwest? Watch how this area begins to bubble up to the north. Watch it. As we're getting, this is Monday night, this is Sunday night, this is Monday morning. See how that area of dew points in the 60s is surging north all the way into South Dakota? That is because this upper trough is digging down, becoming negatively tilted, and because it's moving and progressing eastward, it's really creating a tight gradient air mass, a dry line between very dry air and very moist air. It's because you have a cold front trying to get going, and this is also not only yanking in moist air, it's also yanking up dry desert air and trying to push it as this trough moves east. It's trying to push that dry air east. So this develops a dry line, but at the same time, it's yanking in moist air too from the south, especially from the Gulf of Mexico and areas of Mexico. So you got an area of dew points in the 60s all the way into South Dakota. So right in here is what you watch. Very moist air mass. And I know you're thinking, well, I got dew points in the 60s over here in the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast too, but do you have any flow aloft, which is what I'm about to show you. And, you probably won't. But you get into Tuesday, it's the same deal. Cold front sweeps in, just like I told you, stabilizes the air mass over the plains. But then you get into Tuesday and you have an issue for the Midwest, the Ohio Valley maybe, and especially down here in Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, and Missouri. I mean, in those areas. Okay, tons of moist air, and then this thing goes zonal, and this allows for deep moisture to really get going in eastern Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, central Texas, Mississippi, and you can tell how it chops off the moisture on the top because it gets zonal, but that trough never digs down into the southeast or the south. So therefore, even the moisture line is zonal. And you keep all this moisture to the south. And this gets all the way out to Thursday, which is getting pretty far out. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But you look at storm energy and you compare it to this, and going to have to get this in motion. Here we go. You look at storm energy and you can see it here. When you got that high level of moisture in the air mass, you probably got high levels of storm energy. And here it is. Cape values well over 2,000, 3,000 joules per kilogram across the plains for Monday afternoon. And then you work yourself into Tuesday. You still have a lot of energy. And I mean, there it is for Tuesday afternoon. Look at all this fuel in the atmosphere. Even this will work. Over 1,500 joules per kilogram in Illinois absolutely will work for Tuesday afternoon. We just got to figure out where the lift's going to be. Best kinematics, which I'll show you in here in a second. And then we get into Wednesday evening. I mean, you got ridiculous amounts of fuel in the atmosphere in Oklahoma and Texas. But will you have any lifting mechanism to get those storms going? And then you get into Thursday, guys, and it just hangs out. That's why I do think you'll get a multi-day severe weather threat. Now, one of the key factors is the lift in the atmosphere. And you can see this upper trough. There it is with the associated mid-level jet right here at the base of this trough. And, we move this into, let's go all the way just to Monday afternoon. There it is. This is that mid-level jet. Winds about 17,000, 19,000 feet up in the air, rumbling through the plains. And right here at the exit region of this jet, this is where you're going to have the best lift. It's too soon to talk about low-level jets and all that, but lift, wind energy for these storms, for damaging winds, tornadoes. And then as you start to get into your Tuesday, this thing kind of gets zonal out, if you will. And look at all this flow right here over the Midwest, areas of the Mississippi Valley. And this is riding right over an incredibly moist air mass for most of this region. And then you just keep this going, guys. And I mean, you get into Wednesday. This is when it gets zonal, kind of west to east, right? But you're probably going to run the risk of strong to severe storms in this entire southern flank of this mid-level jet right down here. Wednesday into Thursday. I mean, maybe all the way into next weekend. Okay, so we need to figure this one out, and this is the first stages of doing it. That's all I got. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon.